Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. Let's discuss what the human cell, the divine design of nature according to DIVYANK, and the foundation of living cells. The divine design of nature is DIVYANK, and the formula is 22 by 21 to the power of 10.34419 equivalent to 1.618034. And this is symbolic representation of the cosmos, 10 centers, 10 chakras. Entire Divyank is found in this along with the 10 heavenly bodies of the solar system. Now comes to the question of Divyank. The divine design of nature had three stages of formation of entire thing, the universe. The first stage of creation is 22 by 21 as I've written. The second stage of development is 10 times. And third stage of maturation is 0.34419. And these are the three stages: first stage, second 10 stages, and maturation put together is what Sanatana Dharma has been speaking from the very beginning as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva or Mahesh. Now comes the question. Let's review the literature as I know from ancient Indian wisdom and the creation of the divine nature step by step. First thing, Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 2, number 10. There are 21 stages of solar system. That's the picture which I have written. And within 21 stages, you can see the whole universe can be measured as such, made of only 21 parts. With 22 steps, we can conquer the solar system completely and go beyond the solar system and know the entire solar system, Brahmand as such. And that is exactly what I mean. By understanding this system, I can understand the cells within my body, with the whole nervous system, because everything is revolved around that. The best example is human cell itself. And this is Satchitanand, the eternal state of blissfulness. Do you get it? This is also the moksha, to go beyond to the 21 to 27 state. You get freedom. Similarly, when you understand the cell completely and know everything within the cell, from atom, element, molecule, compound to the cell to the entire thing of human cells, which is a living cell, you really understand the entire universe within that, and that will give you the freedom from all the constraints, the restraints of life, and you could be perfectly healthy. And that is exactly what moksha was all about. And that is the objective of every human being, to become the perfect. Only then they will be able to understand the entire universe completely. This particular perception or conception or recognition is not possible for any other being other than the perfect human beings as such. Now comes to the question of divine design of the physical nature as I am talking about. As I have made it very clear, before life started on Earth, Earth was made of 97% carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide along with the water came down to Earth and into the, from stream to rivers to the ocean, and the life started in ocean as a unicellular organism, and then came the plant kingdom from mineral kingdom, and the photosynthesis in the light of sun came in the green leaves from 6 carbon dioxide, 6 oxygen to glucose plus oxygen. This, so carbon dioxide plus water, 6 molecules equivalent to 1 molecule of glucose and 6 molecules of oxygen. This changed the 97% carbon dioxide, which was beginning, to 21% oxygen, and that is where the life started for biological life thereafter. From unicellular plant, from spores, we have come to be a perfect multiple human beings as such. We are going to see it. But on the other side, to maintain the equilibrium, the animal cells, including human beings, we consume glucose plus oxygen, and the process, we convert that into carbon dioxide and water and give it back to the nature, and we use the energy in the process. Everything came from Agni, from the top to the self, to the plants and to us, and we use the energy to do our work, but give the carbon dioxide and water back to the nature to continue the cycle. And carbon dioxide has got 22 protons and water has got 10, and that is also with Divyank alone. Now come to the question. The first product which was manufactured in the plant was glucose. It is carbohydrate or hydrated carbon, carbon plus H2O is hydrated carbon, is the glucose, is the hexagonal C6H12O6, and this is formed of hydrogen plus carbon plus oxygen is equal to glucose plus water. And once this is understood, that you know the process from glucose is the basic ingredient to be used for the human beings, for all the living beings as the first one, and it is all stored at the starch within the human body as well as in the plant kingdom. And also from glucose lipids are made, and these are proteins, and other things are also from this. So hydrogen, carbon, oxygen is the first thing, then nitrogen is the protein, then carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen plus phosphate is the energy molecule. These are the 5 products which play a very important role in the beginning, and right up to cell we have come to that particular stage. Now the beginning of biology, as I told you, it started in the warm saline waters of the ocean. Requirement came from the ocean water, and end products were expelled into the ocean. The beginning started as a unicellular organism, one single. You can call it amoeba to be very clear. I will not call it protozoa as such, because a single cell cannot be life as such. So let's concentrate on amoeba. Then over a period, this organism grew from unicellular to multicellular step by step, and the best manifestation is the human being as such, as the perfect multicellular organism, perfect from every angle, in par with the universal consciousness, is a perfect human being with a perfect brain, everything. And we will be talking about that step by step, and also the important parts of the mineral kingdom, plant kingdom, animal kingdom, as well as perfect human being. Now comes to the question of plant and these cells. You can see both the cells. Plant kingdom has what our plant cells have got green leaf, and that is what is called, that is what chlorophyll gives you, a process to convert water into oxygen in the plant kingdom, not from carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is converted into glucose, but it is water which is converted into this. In animal is a different story, but otherwise the organisms, the other parts are same, which you are going to understand as we move on from plant kingdom to the animal kingdom. Now come to the applied science of this. Applied aspects of DIVYANK we are going to see in the light of DIVYANK, step by step, how things have manifested, why DIVYANK is going to change the education from beginning to the end with the perfect research and everything. This whole objective is to rectify, give the world a perfect knowledge from every angle, not be confused with the kind of mathematics which have man-made physics, man-made chemistry, man-made biology, and man-made medical sciences. I want to completely change it with DIVYANK, and I am doing my bit and leave it. Now it's up to the people whether to like it or don't like it. It's up to them. I cannot change anybody. But let me share in the process, enjoy my own life as a perfect human being, health, wealth, wisdom, happiness, that I don't need to depend on somebody, but share the same thing for the love of the world, because the world needs a perfection once again to come back to Satya Yuga again. Now come to the human cells in the body. A human cell is a bunch of atoms, elements, molecules, a compound. This is what I have been talking for years together. There are 100 trillion human cells in the human body, the perfect one, and these are cells which form tissues, and tissues form organs. There are 10 organ systems in the body, and that is what is perfect. So cells are both structural and functional units made of that, and that is what we are going to understand today, how we live step by step, and have the sequence as clear as possible. Now comes the question of human cell as such. Under the compound microscope, as we can see only 3 parts, trinity, and that is what I mentioned earlier also. There is a cell membrane, there is cytoplasm, and there is a nucleus. As you can see the cell very clearly, you see only 3 things: cell membrane, cytoplasm, and nucleus. Nothing other than that is seen by anybody under a compound microscope. Under the electron microscope, you see 21 parts. This is what I said. In the solar system, there are 21 parts, and here also is a 21 parts. Cell membrane is 7 parts, cytoplasm has 7 organelles, and nucleus has 7 parts. 7 plus 7 plus 7 is equal to 21 parts, and that's exactly what Om is. Akara is 7, Ukara is 7, Makara is 7. So this is what Om is, this is what cell is, that is solar system. Everywhere is the same story, and that is the beginning of divine mathematics as such. Now come to the question of understanding the different parts of the cell membrane. It is amazing 7 important aspects you can see in a cell membrane. You can see the membrane divided into 2 parts, external and internal. And it is the lipid layer which has 2 layers as such, lipoprotein, phospholipid. Outside cell is phosphate, inside is lipid, and inside the cell it is a phosphate is inside and lipid is inside. In between both are lipid layers. Both outer and inner are phosphate. Phosphates are close to the water, which is hydrophilic. Other one is hydrophobic. Through the cell membrane, only lipid soluble things can go, like oxygen and other thing. Water and electrolytes cannot go through. That's the reality. So lipid bilayer is a protection for the cell. It is protected completely by this, is made of 7 parts. Then hydrophilic polar Hansa phosphate is outside. Then hydrophilic lipid or fatty acids or lipoprotein is inside, and it completely protects. Then you have cholesterol large of the cell membrane. Then sugar side chain is available, integral intrinsic proteins and long chains, and peripheral extrinsic protein. These 7 parts which are mentioned there is the 7 which I am talking about, and that exactly is also talked about. Earth is also made of 7 layers, Atal to Patal. That is, you can see in this particular very clear. Now come to the question of lipid layers. I told you outer and inside. Then water and sodium and potassium from outside cannot go directly, so you have a ligated things. We use ATP in the process to convert 3 sodium against 2 potassiums, and that also correction I will show you when we come to that stage of divine mathematics of 22-21 at later. But you can see the external part and internal part, the cell membrane, and that is what is the first part, which is separated by 2 layers or lipoprotein. Now come to the question of 6 organelles. Organelles which are found in the cell. First, mitochondria. This is one which produces ATP. Then you have rough endoplasmic reticulum. Then you have smooth reticulum. You have Golgi apparatus. You have lysosomes. You have ribosome, and that you have centrosome, which is made of 2 fused centrioles. These are the 7 parts which are important parts of the cytoplasm, 7 organelles. Now comes to the mitochondrial part. You have 2 for the outer part and in part, and what is designed in that is only ATP, and the 2 types of ATPs are produced. Derived, and this particular thing I am making another mention. When we talked of the protozoa, I talked about amoeba, but at the same time I can also tell you this E. coli, which is of the same structure from which mitochondria was developed. And E. coli also under bacteria can grow up to 10 stages. More than that it cannot grow. That also I will be telling you at a later date. But this is something which I have explained. Once that is done, then mitochondria becomes an energy producing molecule or part of the cytoplasm, which will produce ATP, ADP, AMP plus other forms of same combinations, and that is required as far as mitochondria is concerned. We will be talking about something more as I move on. Then come to the endoplasmic reticulum, is the outer layer which is close to the nucleus, and it is responsible for synthesis of proteins as such. So protein is the endoplasmic reticulum, which is rough in nature, whereas smooth endoplasmic reticulum is for the lipid synthesis. So protein and lipid synthesis within the human cells also can be done, and that's it. So what cells did it is can be done within ourselves. Glucose to lipids, and also to proteins and also to ATP, energy, and all the molecules within the body including DNA can be done in the human cells, in the living cells, and they can reproduce also. When I said living cells, they can replicate, and I'll be giving an example of that also as we move on. So these are the two endoplasmic things. Now comes the Golgi apparatus is transport the molecules which are synthesized by the rough reticulum proteins and smooth this and go to algoplasm, and they are like organizers. Now come to the lysosome is the one which is defect in the cell can be completely eliminated by that by producing breakdown of thing. The product which used is hydrogen peroxide. Then ribosome is again a process which manufactures proteins from amino acids, and nucleus gives you the DNA, then RNA, and into process given ribosome to produce amino acid to protein synthesis in the ribosomes. I think that is amazing. Now come to the question of important part is centrosome and to centriole. This is a picture which is very clear, and these are the two things which are very close to the nucleus but not inside the nucleus, but very close to the nucleus. You have seen in the beginning structure itself. Now these are the two closely things, how they divide into two at the time before division starts, and they go to the opposite sides and the centrioles go and further division comes from there. Only when there is one centrosome which is 21 part become 2, it become 22 part, and it starts from there, and I would be giving a little more example as we go on to little further thing, but this is something which was 1 which becomes 2 at the time of creation. Now comes to the question of nucleus. The 7 parts are there. You can see this picture very clearly. I don't have to detail, because for detail you can go and see things there, but there are 7 parts, 7 part and 7 part. Now come to the question of human cell. There are 200 different types of cells are available, and there are reproducing living cells and such, and non-reproducing functional cells also, and non-reproducing nerve cells, and non-reproducing red blood cells, and also the excitable action potential cells and non-excitable. There are 7 different types of things are there, but different things we are going to see as we move on. But to understand the whole concept very clearly, I am going to give you one example of seeing how beautiful are the cells. Now these are 200 different cells, 100 trillion cells, different parts. They are the structural and functional things and do very well. Now I am going to take you a beautiful dialogue which we had in my class for MBBS students. We were talking about erythropoiesis, a formation of red blood cells. After explaining the whole concept very clearly, I raised the question, anybody has any question to be discussed in detail? We have quite a lot of time. We can discuss very clearly, step by step, and understand the concept very clearly with respect to cells, living cells, functional cells, structural cells, and entire DIVYANK itself with respect to that. And the question which was raised by one of the students is, are the red blood cells living cells? You can see in the beginning red cells on top, and he asked for red blood cell. Is it a living cell or not a living cell? I thought it's a very interesting question. I thought it is an interesting question. Let's discuss about it. And the discussion was that I do not believe that it is a living cell. It is not a living cell. Then question I, why it is not a living cell? Now the question is, it cannot reproduce, and that is a question. Then raise the question, is it because the nucleus is not there, that's why it cannot be reproduced? I said no. Nucleus has nothing to do with reproduction at all. It has a DNA, chromosomes, etc. But it is not responsible for reproduction. And they said why is not responsible for this production? Because it is not the nucleus which is responsible, it is something else. Let's discuss about that. Then I raise a question. Now RBCs cannot reproduce because it has no mitochondria, has no nucleus, it has nothing in structure. It is made in 21 days and lasts for 120 days only. After that it dies. It cannot reproduce, can manage only for 120 days, 4 months, and that's it. Whereas on the neuron cells are produced 100 billion neuron cells and then can produce 20,000 memory synapses over a period. But they have a nucleus, but they cannot reproduce. That's a question which needs to be understood to understand the whole nature divine design. Then if a nervous system has to be once and not to be replicated, because you need a memory for rest of your life, step by step. You cannot erase it. Whatever you have seen, observed is stored in your brain and the nervous system completely for rest of your life, and that makes you walking talking encyclopedia, provided you have a good memory. If they are replaced, you will lose all the memory, and that's no use in life at all. Even in your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100 and plus. You should remember all the events from your childhood to till today. Only then you will understand the education completely, otherwise going to be a problem. So as a result, it is not the nucleus which is responsible, it is centrosome which is impossible. And centrosome is missing in neuron cells. And similarly, it is not in red blood cells. Then I said, if you really want to understand the concept very clearly, let's go back to the same erythropoiesis. Now when you look at erythropoiesis, the first cell from which mature red blood cells grow is a living cell, and the width of that is 21 microns to start with the 21 parts, as we know, is in the perfect cell. But at the first time the creation, it is the centrosome which becomes 2 centrioles, 21 part becomes 22. As a result, size also from 21 micron becomes 22 microns. And then it goes to the 10 stages of maturation or development, as you can see in the picture very clearly. At the end, from 21 it increases to 22, then 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, 8, and finally to 7 thing. And it is once it comes to 7 thing, it is very clear you have come to the mature cell, and it is the mature cell in the beginning from which everything developed, has got a 900 cubic micron as a volume, but as a mature cell it is only 90, which is 10 times less. There are 10 stages, and we said 21 days it takes. And once that is understood, you know very well how beautiful is the concept of divine nature. You can see in the formation of red blood cell itself. So 21 to 7.2, 900 micron to 90, 10 stages, and how the blue color to start with, it transferred into pink color and then multiple colors and then finally to red color, and how hemoglobin is formed. And that is again something which I like to explain to you, is why there is no nucleus, why there is no centrosome, because the home prime objective of RBC is to carry oxygen and carbon dioxide alone, and for oxygen and carbon dioxide to be taken you need hemoglobin, and there are 4 molecules of hemoglobin in RBC, and the weight of that, or volume of that, is equal to 35%, and you cannot have more than 38.2% in solids in any cell including RBC. So 35 is taken, there is not enough space for nucleus, mitochondria, others as such, so they were removed and this was put. And now this hemoglobin has to go through the process. In the process, how ferrous, globin put together, how vitamin B12, folic acid, other things got together to form hemoglobin, and how things come, and that is something which I have already explained. That's how it is required, and once this is understood, is very clear. Perfect living cell, best example is the RBC to start with, in the being pluripotent itself, or unipotent or omnipotent, and how 10 stages come. Once that is done, I think is very clear. the entire cellular system can be understood only by understanding human cell, particularly red blood cells from beginning to the end, and same process is found in others. I think once it's understood, I think we are very clear. Okay, we understand the cell membrane, cell cytoplasm, cell nucleus, and its process of formation of new cells, and also the requirement of the cells in everything we are going to see as we move on. I think that's take it to the next stage. I'm not going to talk much, but this is enough. Ajay, thank you very much.